Hello, how are you? Today I'm going to tell you why I eat 2 tablespoons of chia every day in my diet. Chia can help your metabolism, weight control, satiety, and your gut even more than some supplements that are much more expensive. I'll tell you what time I eat it and the benefits it can bring you. Stay until the end, you won't want to miss this. Before we start, I want to ask, do you have the habit of eating chia? Do you know about chia? Do you eat it only occasionally, or is it a regular part of your diet like it is in mine? I would love to see your comment. If you can, I'd like to ask you to like the video because after all, that's your way of helping me too. This shows YouTube that you support the channel and trust my content. When we look at chia, it's one of the most incredible seeds that exist in nature. The first thing I love about chia is the fact that it doesn't have a pronounced flavor. Unlike other seeds that have a stronger taste, chia has almost no flavor at all, as I like to say. It's very neutral. So the good thing about chia, and that's why I started adding it to my diet every day, is because it really doesn't change the taste of recipes, whether they're sweet or savory. It won't interfere with the flavor or palatability, and I already think that's a huge benefit. But of course, the benefits I look for in chia aren't related to it not having a taste. That's just an extra benefit for me. The main point is that chia is a food that naturally has a very interesting composition. When we look at chia, it's a seed that has a huge amount of fiber, and these fibers in chia are soluble fibers. So they can be hydrated very quickly, and you can notice this very easily because when you take a wet spoon, just a little damp, and put it into chia seeds, it all sticks together because the chia absorbs that water, even if it's just a very small amount. So when we hydrate chia, whether in a drink, mixed into food before eating it, or even when it becomes hydrated in the stomach with the liquids you consume afterward, it ends up absorbing a very large amount of liquid relative to its own weight, forming that characteristic gel. It has a great capacity to absorb liquid and forms what we call mucilage because it is an extremely soluble fiber. It actually forms a kind of mucilage, almost like a gel, and when it turns into a gel, it can bring several interesting benefits to our body. The first major benefit of hydrating chia before consuming it, which, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the ways you can consume chia, though it's not strictly necessary, is that by hydrating chia, since it will expand in volume and absorb a lot of liquid, it will take up quite a bit of space in your stomach. So if you are in the process of losing weight, or if you are someone who usually feels very hungry, consuming chia before meals will help you eat less during that meal because your stomach has already received a large volume of food with a lower caloric density. So this ends up being a very interesting benefit. This hydrated chia, the fiber from chia, especially its soluble fiber, by forming this gel, also helps make intestinal transit slower, which changes the way digestion happens. And why does this help us as well? It helps with satiety because it will take longer for the food to leave the stomach, and it also helps control blood sugar because the food, not just the chia, but whatever you ate with the chia at that moment, will end up staying there longer because the entire food bolus will pass more slowly from the stomach to the intestine and from the intestine to the bloodstream. In other words, chia will help prevent glucose spikes. When we avoid glucose spikes, we have better control over inflammation and prevent an increase in insulin, so it helps our overall health. Still talking about the digestive tract, chia is fantastic because since it has a large amount of fiber that has been hydrated, it really helps with the formation of the fecal bolus. It really helps to hydrate the fecal bolus, making the stool bulkier in our intestine and sending a stronger signal to our brain. When we are able to increase the fecal volume, we can send a signal to the brain to further stimulate peristalsis, which is the movement of the intestines. It also, because it contains healthy fats and water, since it has been hydrated during the digestion process, helps to make stool easier to pass and prevents constipation, prevents hemorrhoids, prevents bowel obstruction, gas, and bloating, because it helps the intestines to always maintain a good rhythm of functioning. Another point I love about chia is its fat profile. Chia is a seed that contains precursors to omega-3, so it is a seed that can really help with moistening the stool because it contains healthy fats. Chia also helps our heart, supports brain health, and helps reduce inflammation, thanks to its anti-inflammatory fat profile and its omega-3 precursors. So we always talk about adding more healthy fats to our diet, and chia is an excellent option for us to include in our daily routine. Another benefit of chia is related to cardiovascular health, first because of the fiber it contains. Since these fibers are soluble fibers, they can help increase the excretion of cholesterol through the feces, which helps to normalize blood fat levels. This leads to a lower amount of LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, and reduces cholesterol absorption in the intestine. Besides that, as I mentioned, it contains healthy fats that act as a cardiovascular protector. So that's another very interesting benefit. Then maybe you're wondering, Patricia, why did you choose to consume 2 tablespoons of chia throughout the day? Isn't that an excessive amount? It's not. Especially because when you look at the fiber requirements we should consume throughout the day, which is 25 to 30 grams per day, very few people manage to get that just with a cup of lettuce at lunch or 2 pieces of fruit a day. So the tendency is for people to eat fewer vegetables, greens, and fruits, which they really shouldn't. So chia can help in a way as if it were a fiber supplement as well. Usually I like to do it this way. This is my personal preference, and you can tell me later what works for you. I always like to prepare a little jar of my breakfast. I have many recipes here on the channel where we can hydrate. Yogurt, kefir, coconut milk, almond milk, any healthy liquid, even cow's milk with a spoonful of chia. And we can add cocoa, cinnamon, or even another mashed fruit, whatever you like. Usually I prepare it the night before and leave it in the fridge, so in the morning it's ready to eat. There are no excuses. It's already prepared, and it's something that works well for my mornings, which is a time when we don't have much time to spare. And another time I like to have chia is at dinner, because then I can sprinkle it over my salad, which I think tastes really good, or mix it with cooked vegetables. It has that crunchy texture, and I really like this difference in textures and consistencies. And a lot of people say to me, Patricia, I like salad with the crunch of shoestring potatoes. I miss that. Choose to eat chia like this, and you'll see that it gives you that little crunch you're sometimes looking for, obviously in a much less caloric and much healthier way. Other things that work well for my breakfast too are juices and smoothies, which are also very quick, and sometimes I add chia there, a spoonful either in the smoothie or in the juice to blend it all together. That also works really well. And sometimes for dinner, I don't really like to eat a full meal. I prefer to make, for example, an omelet or a healthy tortilla, and then I add chia together with the egg and the flour and put in whatever filling I want. Or I make an omelet. If I want to cut down on carbs, I add chia along with some vegetables, some tuna, some chicken, something like that. That works really well too. I want to give you a warning, because when we start consuming more fiber, it always has to be gradual. If you've never eaten chia in your daily routine, you shouldn't start with 2 tablespoons. It's a matter of your intestines adapting. So usually we start with a teaspoon. After a few days, we move up to 2 teaspoons. Then after a few more days, we increase to a tablespoon. And then after a few more days, we go up to 2 tablespoons, and you see how your body reacts. Every body is different. There's no one-size-fits-all recipe. If you have any questions, you should talk to your nutritionist or your local doctor, even to assess the rest of your diet. I'm telling you what I do here myself. Another very important point I want to warn you about is regarding water, because chia is a very rich source of soluble fiber. And as the name says, it's soluble. Soluble in what? In water, in liquids. So for it to play its interesting role, for it to fulfill its function in the best possible way, you need to treat this fiber properly. When we increase our fiber intake, we necessarily have to increase our liquid intake as well, preferably water, which is the liquid we should consume the most. So of course, at the moment when I consume fiber, I usually already drink an extra glass of water to make sure that the fiber is well hydrated. But plenty of water, at least 8 cups or more throughout the day, depending on where you live. If you sweat a lot, if you exercise a lot, you have to take all of that into consideration. But increasing your fluid intake is super important to make sure the fiber does its job and doesn't block up your intestines, because we know that people who consume a lot of fiber and don't hydrate can actually have the opposite effect. Think of a dish sponge. If it's dry, it's hard. If it's hydrated, it's soft. So remember chia and fibers in general in this way. Another interesting point is that if you don't like chia, can't find it in your city, and prefer flaxseed, it can be a good substitute. And usually we use ground flaxseed to make it easier for it to absorb liquid and hydrate, since flaxseed has a tougher shell. So tell me down below, do you use chia, another fiber, or another type of seed? How much do you use, and how does it fit into your routine? I would love to see your comment. Remember to like the video, it really helps me out, and share it with someone who will enjoy it or who needs it. Let's work together to spread this chain of kindness. That's what I want here with the channel. See you next time. Bye.